Hi, my name is Pete Allnut. I'm the owner of Winescape. This presentation covers how suppliers to Winescape can access Creditorwatch reports on buyers that we introduce. In this example, we're a supplier and we've had 3 sample requests from prospective buyers on a listed wine. To access the sample requests, we'll go through the to-do list to the sample request station on the track. The 3 companies that have requested samples are Accolade Wines, McWilliams Wines and a sole trader named Steve Watson. The scores under the Creditorwatch column represent a number out of 850. So if a company scores 850, then you're unlikely to have any trouble being paid. If a company has a score of 200, then you might have an issue. The scores we publish on Winescape are good as at the date we uploaded the data. So you just hover over the credit score to get that date. If the date of the score is older than a month and you'd like to know the most recent score, then contact us and we'll get it updated. If you don't have access to our Creditorwatch corporate account, then the scores and the upload date are all you'll be able to access from Creditorwatch. Access to our corporate account is $49.50 a month and can be set up by contacting myself or Chris. If you've got to log into our account, you'll have access to reporting on the buyers that we introduce. To link through to a Creditorwatch report, click on the credit score. This will take you through to a full report on the buyer. We'll click on the credit score for our first prospective buyer, Accolade Wines. Creditorwatch have designed reports so that they are a fast snapshot for customers who don't always have a background in credit or accounting. I'm not going to run through and define each element of the report. There are plenty of help tutorials on Creditorwatch to explain features of the site. I'll just look at a couple of things that we always consider. Firstly, we confirm the credit score. The credit score on Creditorwatch is the most recent score and may be different to the score published on Winescape. When looking at the detail and history of the credit scores, we're looking for any big dips. The dips can mean there's issues with the business. A big spike in court cases or mercantile inquiries will lead to a drop in a company's credit score, as will adverse directorships or critical asset documents, which we'll cover a bit more in a second. There's no issue here with Accolade's credit score, and this graph shows that it has a strong, consistent line over the last 12 months. We would also look at a company's credit inquiries. Credit inquiries show the number of times an entity's credit file has been accessed over the last year. The graph and table detail the date of the inquiry and the industry of the business making the inquiry. Again, no issue here with Accolade. Accolade's a big company and you'd expect a volume of inquiries. Given that credit inquiries are not matched with any other damaging data, then there's no problem here. If we move back to the dashboard, we'll look at the ticked items. We can see that the company is registered with ASIC, that there is no registered default, so no companies have registered a default payment against Accolade with Creditorwatch. There are no current court proceedings involving Accolade. There are no ASIC published notices, so no notices involving changes of directors or similar ASIC business. There are no mercantile inquiries against Accolade, so no debt collection agencies chasing money from Accolade, and there are no critical ASIC documents currently issued. So critical ASIC documents refer to orders relating to company wind-up, administration or receivership. We will just check out the last button here, which relates to cross-directorships. Where a director of a company is a director of one or more companies, then they have a cross-directorship. Identifying cross-directorships is important because a company that is performing poorly can affect the credit rating of other companies the director is involved with. This is particularly true where companies are involved in a high number of court cases, mercantile inquiries, or connected companies are going into or dealing with receivership or liquidation. In this case, there are 3 cross-directorships for this one Accolade director. We've tracked through to these other companies by clicking cross-directorships on the dashboard. I checked out the connected companies earlier and it looks like each of the cross companies have been voluntarily deregistered. So these are companies that are, for whatever reason, just no longer trading. In my view, none of this affects the creditworthiness of Accolade. If you were concerned, you could certainly drill down and dig deeper with the information provided on Creditorwatch. So we've evaluated the report, and the conclusion here is that yes, we would definitely be sending Accolade any samples that they require. Further, we hope they like the wine, because if Accolade asks for credit terms, then there is a small risk that the debt will not be settled. We'll just assume that a sample has been prepped for Accolade, which we'll now mark as sent. We'll now click on the McWilliams link. The first thing we see here is a lot of red. McWilliams is unfortunately under external administration, and as such their credit score is 1. We can also see that there are 13 critical asset documents issued. It's possible to click on any of these dashboard items to get more information, but in this case we don't need to see anything more than what is published on the dashboard to make a decision on sending samples. McWilliams is a 150-year-old company and was the 5th largest wine company in Australia. Their collapse is a really sad story for the wine industry, but unfortunately the message must be that even the biggest and most well-established wine businesses are not averse to severe financial problems. The point here is that the report is intelligence that directs a supplier in a certain way. And look, the reality may be that there's a reason McWilliams are requesting samples, and it might be that the receiver's happy to take responsibility for the payment. But look, in this case, just for this example, we'll reject the sample request. The last buyer is a sole trader who we know has been bankrupt. If a person has been bankrupt previously, they are more likely to default on future debt, and your company needs to tread carefully. We can see that this customer represents a critical risk. The ABN has been cancelled, and if we scroll down we can see that this buyer is an undischarged bankrupt. In this case we'll be rejecting the sample request. We're too busy to be opening up negotiations with parties who have this sort of history. This is all pretty boring stuff, but it's a lot less boring than dealing with a company that takes your time and money and simply doesn't have the capacity to pay for the deal they're trying to set up. To summarise, we've checked out 3 buyers here in less than 10 minutes. 10 or 20 years ago this just wouldn't have been viable. For $49.50 a month your salespeople can vet buyers prior to introducing them into your company. This just means you'll see less time wasters and less bad debt. No wine company can afford to be dragged away from the vital work of staying in business, and into the future that means using tools like Creditorwatch. So look, thanks for listening, and any queries, get a hold of us at Winescape.